Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. My death wish is starting to go away, so I don't jump out of planes anymore. But I'm really glad to be here. As Yolanda was saying, I used to deal for almost 10 years with with very large companies, and what I was doing with them was helping them to understand how technology is changing. And then about 2 years ago, well, a little bit before that, I started to realize that it isn't just technology that's changing, we're changing. The whole world is changing very, very fast. And that's one of the things that I really want to talk to you about, because I think it's something that we all kind of know, but maybe we don't know. So, for instance, did you know that half of the information that's recorded, that has ever been recorded, was created in the last 2 years? So half of all the information ever, and that time is getting smaller. We're creating it so fast that we just have more and more knowledge about everything. And that's going to grow exponentially over the next few years as just about everything gets its own little chip and starts talking to the internet. It's going to get really, really crazy. The other side of it is that people are changing in relation to the machines that they use. We all carry around mobile phones and stuff like that, and some of us have hundreds of apps and some of us just use it as a phone. And some people would say that this is an age thing, that young people all use their phones and that old people don't. Actually, that's not true at all. What is true, though, is that the way in which we interact with each other is changing because of this. We don't make the plans we used to do. We're much more fluid. We expect things to happen sort of much more fluidly, coming together at the last possible minute for a lot of these things, because we carry around an awful lot of information, not just on our phones, but this is the gateway into all sorts of information that exists in the world, as you no doubt know. But that changes the way we think about information. Universities aren't teaching you information anymore, not even teaching you how to learn. They're teaching you how to interact, how to lead, do different things. And so what we're seeing is that young people are actually very different to the older generations. The digital natives, as they call them, are different in the way they work, different in the way that they expect things to happen. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses are expecting people to be the same as they always have been. And as a result, they're expecting their customers to be the same. And they're not at all. So this is compounded, I think, for me by just the rate of change. So I was looking this morning when I woke up, and I noticed a couple of things that have changed today. So today, Airbus announced that by 2020, they're going to have self-flying cars, not self-driving cars. They're going to have one-man aeroplanes on the market. And you think, really? Why do we want those? Strange question. And then at the same time, Tesla put an update over their cars this morning, I think, to most of their cars anyway, which allowed them to be autonomous at up to 90 miles an hour. So you can sit in your car and your car will drive itself on the roads here at 90 miles an hour. Don't know if you want that, but when you drive home, be careful of the Teslas, is all I would say. At the same time, on the theme of cars, in London, a Nissan Leaf is going to be driving itself around as of next month. They've now got capability to do that. And okay, this is all technical stuff. And you think, oh yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if I'm going to have a driverless car. But the real point is that that's going to change pretty much everything. Because when you start to get into driverless cars, and this has come down in the time it'll take. So these companies are talking about having these cars launched and running by 2020. That's less than 3 years away. That's going to change how we go to the pub. Yay, we can all go to the pub. How we send our children to school. At the moment, only, I think it's 17% of people would actually send their children to school in a driverless car. But I bet you that's going to change as soon as I don't have to get up in the morning. Wow, that's great. That sort of thing will change the world very, very rapidly. I guess what I'm saying is that technology changes us, and to some degree that changes the way we buy things. As cars become driverless, why would you own a car? At the moment, look at all the money that's sitting out in the car park there, just sitting there. when you have a driverless car, the car can go off and do something else. In fact, it could earn money for you as a taxi while you're sitting in here. It could go and do something else. In fact, maybe we just won't own cars at all. What's the point really of owning cars? At which point we come to the stage where cars actually own themselves. You've probably not heard of a digital autonomous organization, but they're starting to build organizations which have no people in them at all. They're just done with algorithms. That's what a car will do. It'll basically run itself. It'll go and pay for its own servicing. It'll might even buy another car, have another car constructed for its old age. I mean, this sounds like a joke, but it's true. This is what we're looking at. And these changes are massive. And most of them, I think, I'm a positive guy, so I think most of them are going to be quite positive. Not necessarily. If you think that in 70 years we went from most transport being by horse to actually getting someone onto the moon, that was 70 years. That's not that long, and that has been shortening and shortening and shortening. So we should expect massive change, massive disruption coming towards us. And it is happening, and not necessarily in a good way, as I said. In 1915, I think it is, 40% of adults in America worked in agriculture, and now 2% of adults work in agriculture. So there was a massive drop-off, very, very quick drop-off of the number of people employed in agriculture. And what actually happened was that the state got together and they said, okay, we've got to put people into education. We've got to prepare these people for different jobs. I don't see us doing that. And we're in the sort of situation that that's going to happen again. Certainly, I was talking to some people here in professional services. Professional services are going to change in the next few years, completely change. And we're not really ready for that. And the jobs that are available now, there'll be different jobs. They won't be the ones that we're used to. And so we're not training people. We're not getting people ready for this stuff. So back to the theme of disruption, there's an awful lot of disruption coming. And so I guess one of my points is, if you think that as a company you can keep on doing what you've always done, there's so much change, it's very unlikely that that'll work. So you have to start thinking about what else you can do. And there is this idea of disruptive innovation, that you'll go out and you'll do something different. Disruptive as opposed to incremental. Incremental, I'll make my new model of car that little bit better than the last one. Or I'll do something different. I'll make a plane. Well, that's probably not such a good idea, I would say, but who knows. So really, I think companies need to focus more on investing on disruptive innovation. But how? Disruptive innovation, by its very nature, is quite risky. You can make a bet on something and you can get it wrong, and a lot of people do. And the way to de-risk it, I found, is actually to look at the changes that are happening in people and test it. So you get these things in some companies at the moment. One of my favorite examples at the moment is LinkedIn. Imagine a lot of you have a LinkedIn profile. In fact, there are 490 million people who have LinkedIn profiles. And they don't seem to really, how would they make any money? How do you make money out of just a profile that's free? Well, the fact that there's only 1,500 of them in LinkedIn as employees probably helps. They don't have to make that much money to pay the employees. But the more interesting points are that of those 1,500 employees, 10 of them are over the age of 40. Everybody else is average age of 24. And so that company is completely skewed the other way. They don't have people like that. I was a bit depressed. It was like I wanted to go and work with my friend, and then they were, you can't come in. You're too old. You passed it. It's like, all right. And my point really is that some companies are doing that. They're changing their profiles to an extreme degree. And what I think is really interesting within LinkedIn is their focus on agility and change. So at LinkedIn, my friend who is one of those 10, he was saying, I got there, and the first thing they did was they said, we need a new spreadsheet to do this, that, and the next thing. And within half an hour, somebody had written this spreadsheet that I needed. I was halfway through thinking what it was, and they'd produced it already. This idea, you've no doubt heard of failing fast. Well, they don't even think about it as failing. They just think about it as testing. They're testing new ideas all the time. And that's the way that people have to be looking forward. Trying new things. Agility to try something. If it doesn't work, try something else until you find the right one. So I think we have these sort of strange changes coming. So the connection between the number of people that works for your company and how many customers you have is breaking for a lot of companies. Even professional services who pride themselves on their personal connection. I think personal connections are good, but they're even better if you can fake it. You know, if you can fake an intimate relationship with 1 million people and do it properly, well, you're probably onto something. So, how do you take advantage of this? Well, there are some technologies that will help you, and there are some technologies that won't. And you've probably heard of lots of them. Let's see if we can tell. So I'll name 3 and see whether you think they'll help or not. So if we take blockchain, does anybody think that blockchain will help their company? If you could put your hand up. No? Okay, it's probably because none of us really know what blockchain is at this stage. But interestingly, it's going to be potentially one of the biggest changes and most applicable to most companies. How about artificial intelligence? Now, most people know what artificial intelligence is, sort of. It replaces human thought and stuff like that. The problem is, most of you won't be able to use it as companies because all the artificial intelligence bods have been hoovered up by 5 companies. You don't really have a chance. Good luck, but don't go there. And so this is going to be a massive change which you won't get a look into. So that sort of thing becomes quite difficult. I think the one place that everybody can win is about that connection to the customers. We're now in a situation where there's masses of data. Connecting to people is very easy. Everybody carries a phone around with them, so they're producing the hardware. In fact, they'll pay you for the connection to get to them. If you can find an idea that works, then you've got a way forward. And when I say you, I really do mean everybody here. So I wear this watch, not because it's a particularly good watch, but this is a Pebble watch. And this always reminds me that this watch was created as an idea and then crowdfunded. And they got millions of pounds within the first 24 hours because it was just such a cool idea at the time. This watch, they didn't have any manufacturing capability. There were 5 of them. They had no background in this sort of stuff at all. They were just out of university. This watch beat Sony and all the other, Apple and all the other companies to market with something that was new and innovative. They had no funding. They had no way of manufacturing, and they still did it because they had an idea and they went out and managed it. And those sort of things are happening all the time. So that's one. I don't know if you guys have come across one of these. My cats love this one. This is a dash button from Amazon. And basically, it feeds on one of the things that we do. So one of the things that mobile phones have taught us is we want things to happen now. In fact, as the South Africans would say, now, which is just a little bit quicker than now. And so a dash button is something that you put around your house. So this is to order cat food. And I normally stick this by the cat food. And I have another one for washing up liquid, and I have another one for washing liquid or whatever it is. And when I see that my cat food is running out, I press the button. And then I walk away. And 24 hours later, or if I lived in central London, 4 hours later, cat food turns up at my door. And this saves me from having to remember that the cats don't have any food and I've got to go to the shop. It's that memory thing. It's that in the moment I can make a decision and buy something. I don't even have to pick up my phone, which also is connected to Amazon, and search for it. All this does is cat food. And interestingly, the business model for this thing is not about me as a consumer, really. It's about the pressure that they can put on Whiskers and all the other cat food firms saying, we've got 1 million people that will only ever buy Whiskers from us. Would you like a share of that market? It's brilliant. It's very clever. Because actually, when I buy Whiskers, it's cheaper to buy it like this than if I went to one of my local supermarkets. So it's kind of a win-win-win, but not quite. And what is important with all these innovations is that you're feeding into what it is that those people want at the time. So just to end up then, the world is different. we're in a period of technological instability, let alone the political instability, where things are changing massively. And ultimately, if you have a good idea, a really good idea, you can make it happen, unless you really mess up. You know, if you don't make it work, then that's down to you. And so how do you do that? And where do you get the resources? And this is where my interest in this disruptive innovation came from, partly to help companies to understand what's available to them. And I've done some really strange stuff with, you know, a plumbing company who wanted to take out all their competition and managed it quite nicely. You know, they're actually winning against the competition, although all they do is plumbing, because they're using technology in a different way. But then beyond just that managing of the disruption, I realized that what people need, sometimes they need ideas, sometimes they need funding, sometimes they need a specialist who can do something for them, sometimes they need somebody who can explain what this blockchain thing is, so that they can take an advantage of it. And that's where PathFinder comes in, which is this thing here. And the idea is to connect people together. It's not really a network as such, because it's more of an ecosystem where people can do business within a network. And I think ecosystems are going to be very important going forwards, where we actually start to, not only in physical life, but we're actually making connections with other people who will be useful for us for the length of our working lives. And this is an ecosystem which brings people together so that they can contract to actually do business. So somebody can put an idea, say a problem, a challenge out there. One example is when you come to an airport, how do I find the bus I have to get on when I'm on holiday? How do I know? Well, at the moment you have somebody standing there saying, "Ah, Mr. Dowd, how nice to see you. Yes, it's bus number 62. How do they do that? So they know what they want to do, but they don't know how to do it. So it's inviting those ideas. Come and help us do that. And then, by the way, we need technology. Come and find the technology to do that. And I guess for all of you, the last point is, don't stand still, but don't be worried that this doesn't exist. If you can go and find other people to help you to do these technological changes, you can avoid the disruption that is happening to a lot of people by doing it first. And I think that that's the important point. You have to get out and understand that you can change, that you can do things differently in line with what the consumers want. So thank you. Thanks very much.